Now and then, I am blessed to have a guest that might have the best face for the future of family in his heart for us. A shining star in our political world for sure. It is my pleasure to introduce you to my friend and candidate for Suffolk County Legislature in the 12th District in Smithtown, Mr. Gary Jacobs.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Let's see what Gary is all about. So, how did you get involved in politics?
Well, I grew up on Long Island. I grew up in Huntington, and I went to school in New York State, lived in Long Island my whole life. I currently live in Smithtown, been a resident for 18 years, raised 3 children in Smithtown. Love Long Island, love everything we have to offer. And up until a few years ago, I actually was not really interested in politics, I would say. I voted in the elections. I follow the news, pretty much like everybody else, but I never went to any meetings. I didn't consider myself a political person. Over the last few years, I started seeing the town that I live in, Smithtown, start to really deteriorate. Opens stores on Main Street, nothing happening, my taxes going up, and I was complaining about it.
No
like
bang for the buck anymore, right?
Exactly, and I said, you know what, it's tough. I struggle to pay my mortgage, put kids through college, pay my taxes, and I would complain about it with my friends. Finally, I said to myself, well, you know what? Why am I complaining about it? Why don't I do something about it? I reached out to the Suffolk County, to the Smithtown Democratic Committee, and as an outsider, I figured, these guys aren't going to be interested. It's an old boys club. I went there; they couldn't be more welcoming, and I got involved. And they've been very helpful and supportive. They liked the issues that I had, and they agreed that we need some new blood, especially in a town like Smithtown, where the same people have been running the board, 20 and 30 years now. It's just no change going on.
Why did you choose the Suffolk Legislature, for instance, rather than the state legislature or some other office?
Well, you know what? Living on Long Island, I want to make changes locally. Currently, the legislator in my district has been in office for 12 years. He's a Republican, and the legislature, the majority, is Democrat. I find that he's not really bringing the money back into Smithtown, where I live, and that bothers me. I see Smithtown is a fairly affluent town. We're paying a lot of money in, and we're not getting a lot of money back from the county because our legislature is not working with the county executive and working with the legislator of the body to pull money back into Smithtown.
Well, now that you're talking about Smithtown, maybe you can just continue a little further. What else might Smithtown need that you might be able to provide for them?
Right. Smithtown, we have a beautiful town in Smithtown. We have parks, we have the river that comes through it. One of the things that attracted me when I was looking for homes is I love the downtown area. I love the feel that I can walk downtown. I can see people that I know in my community, such as Huntington has it, Northport has it. I really do like that feel, and I like the fact that there's mom and pop businesses and the town has personality. But what bothers me now is, for instance, on Main Street in Smithtown, there are over 20 empty stores on Main Street alone. Once that decline starts going down, these stores stay vacant for a while. The landlords end up renting them to, for example, gold and jewelry buying places. Sometimes they end up renting them to dollar stores, or they just stay vacant. It's just a real decline of the town. It's losing its feel. Also, we end up getting big chain stores moving in. And I travel the country for business, and it bothers me when I go into a town and I can't tell if I'm in the Midwest, if I'm on the West Coast, if I'm in Florida, because all I see is Burger King, McDonald's, 7-Elevens, Walgreens. I want to keep the personality of Smithtown.
Yeah, that's important. And the only consolation you have is that the economy is kind of dragging a lot of towns down, but I completely get that you want to take care of your own town that you live in, that you're comfortable with, and you know the people there.
Right. I want to see, I think there should be initiatives, there should be incentives for families in Smithtown who live in Smithtown to get them to open up businesses in town. Maybe a parent whose child, they're empty nesters now in their home and they have a hobby. They should be able to open up a store. There should be some kind of grant. They may not have a lot of money in the bank to go out and do it. Let's make that happen for them. My idea for a Smithtown is to make it an art community, a destination community. We have a theater in town that was converted, and now it's the Smithtown Performing Arts Center. And I've been to some shows there, and it is a great place. It's got a lot of character. There's great shows there, and you can come out from Manhattan. You can take the train, the Long Island Railroad stops right in our downtown area where you can just walk right into town. And what I envision is people coming into town, and maybe those 20 stores, maybe 15 of them become art galleries. Some for local artists, some for more well-known artists, and make Smithtown a destination that people will come out from the city, spend the day in Smithtown. We have some amazing restaurants. They really rival any restaurant in New York City. Just so many choices. We have clubs, we have bars. There's just so much to do in Smithtown, and I want to build upon that because the biggest revenue for Suffolk County is sales tax. So this is an easy, so we don't have to raise anybody's taxes. Let's just get more business, fill up those 25 stores, and if each one of them does $500,000 a year at our 8.6% sales tax, that's a lot of money that came into our community without any pain.
I like the idea that you said before about the residents themselves can contribute if they were able to own things in town. They should have some kind of incentive to do that because they're in the town already. Your experience in college was in agriculture, do I have that right?
Actually, my major is in agriculture. I love the outdoors, and again, that's one of the things I love about Smithtown. We have beautiful parks. We can go right up to the Long Island Sound. We have beaches, and I have a lot of interest in the parks, and that's something that the Suffolk County Legislature oversees is the parks. I'd like to expand upon it.
Is there places left for the parks?
There actually is. One of the something I feel very passionate about is, as I said, my kids went to Smithtown schools, and every day my kids' bus drove up Main Street by the Bull, and where the Bull is straight ahead of you, on the left-hand side is a strip club. And I'm not a prude, and I think people have the right to own a strip club if it's legal. But you know what? We just borrowed over $5 million in Smithtown to do street work. Borrow some money, buy out the strip club, or move them, relocate them to an industrial area in Hop Hog where there's no houses, where our kids don't have to pass by this every day, and take that. That's one of the nicest areas of Smithtown because the Nissaquag River comes in there.
Sure, there's a canoe place right there.
There's a canoe place right there. And I would like to make that like they did in Riverhead. I envision that as the Smithtown River Walk. Where we demolished that house where the strip club is, and we build up a nice walkway where you can walk down the river. I'd like to see some outdoor, like a clam shack type thing where you can sit outside and attract people that say, hey, let's go to the Smithtown River Walk for the day. The business will trickle into the town and feed our businesses, and it really is a beautiful area, and that's something I think is worthwhile investing in.
You said your opponent was John Kennedy, running for his, sixth term? Did I hear that
Correct.
right? He's been vocal in his opposition to Steve Malone selling the Foley nursing home. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I think it's an interesting issue because, a lot of people say, hey, Democrats aren't fiscally responsible and they just spend and spend. Couldn't be furthest from the truth. You have Steve Malone, who's a Democrat, our county executive, and he's put forth selling the Foley nursing home, which is out in Yaphank. The county loses over $1 million a month on this nursing home. If we gave it away to somebody and got it out off of our town. Listen, a town should not be involved in running a nursing home. How
are they losing it?
Just the expenses. Listen, we don't know how to
carrying the buildings.
The county doesn't know how to run a nursing home like private sector does. The government obviously has a role, in highways and protecting us and parks.
Right.
But running a nursing home, there's no need for it anymore. They have people who will take it over. Everybody working there would still keep their job. There'll still be a union job. All the residents will have a place to go, whether it's at that nursing home or another nursing home. Nobody's going to be thrown out.
Are they still there now?
They're still there now, and nobody's going to be thrown out like this. And the county, imagine we're going to save $13 million a year. And John Kennedy, who I find it surprising that he's even outspoken about it, and I understand that he's passionate about it. It's not even in our district. It's a county. It's in the county. And of course, he has to be concerned. But why would a Republican be against this county saving $1 million a month? It just doesn't make sense to me why he wouldn't support the legislature and our county executive are trying to do. Listen, that's a tough call for somebody to make.
But at least you have a voice. I mean, if you go, even if it's not in your district. There's a lot of infighting that goes on between the Democrats and the Republicans. Is there any in your area specifically?
Actually, Smithtown is controlled pretty much by the Republicans. Has been for years, and I see an issue with that because you don't have any opposing views. The Republicans keep getting in, they keep getting reelected, and they become career politicians at this point. You know, I believe in representative government. I believe you get into it because you want to make things better. That's why I'm getting into it, not getting in for the money. I don't want to become a career politician. I have a job. Right now we have fighting between the Republicans and the conservatives. The same Republicans have just been running our town for years. It's about time that we have change, because you know what, it may have run well for 10, 15 years, but now young people are moving out. They can't afford to live in Smithtown anymore. And the problem with that is people say, all right, well, there's no young people in the town, I can live here. But when my kids move out of town and they move down south, number one, we educated these kids. We spent so much money educating, giving an unbelievable education.
And now we're going to let them go.
And then we let them go and somebody else benefits. The other thing, Chris, is what happens when they have kids. Well, I want to be with my grandchildren, so now I move.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's a bad cycle. You need to have...
Absolutely a bad cycle, yeah.
You need to have affordable housing, and I'm not talking about low-income housing. Nobody wants, you know, a certain element coming into your town. But I'm talking about affordable housing in the downtown area.
Doesn't taxation have a lot to do with that also? I mean, it's an element.
Well,
high
it sort
taxation.
Of keeps, right, the higher taxation keeps out. But you know what? Listen, I'll be the first to tell you, I don't want them building an apartment building across the street from my house.
Right.
My ideas are downtown. We have a lot of clubs that kids love. They can work in Manhattan. They don't even have to have a car. They can hop on the train and be in Manhattan. Let's put some apartments for our kids. Let's put them downtown. You know, they don't need a big place, a small apartment downtown, and let them be able to live in our community, get a job in Manhattan, save up some money, and then buy a house in Smithtown.
Do you think your children will be able to stay here? You're telling me that
you
doubt it, right?
I don't see how they can. You know, somebody can move into to Smithtown. It's very difficult. You know, unfortunately, the way I think people can buy is when their parents pass away and they inherit the money, they can move into Smithtown. But we really need some of that younger generation moving in, you know, staying in Smithtown. I want my kids to be able to live in the town where they grew up in. And again, I don't want to educate, spend this tons of money with this unbelievable education, and then lose it to another community. I want them staying in my community and on Long Island and Suffolk County as a whole.
There's a lot of issues, as you know, because we've talked about this on our show. We talk about families that are in transition, and we talk about divorcing issues and things that are like that. And there are problems that you know of within the family courts that you maybe can address as a legislator.
As a legislature, a lot of the issues aren't really part of what we can do in the legislature, although you have a voice when you're in the legislature, so you can work with the assemblyman and the Senate to get done.
Because it's primarily a state issue.
Right. My feeling that it's something I'd like to get done on the state level, and working with the state legislatures is a 50-50 shared custody as the general rule, so there's not as much fighting in the court system. Locally, one of the issues that we do have is with Child Protective Services. That falls under the Suffolk County Legislature, and I do think that needs to be overhauled, because Child Protective Services, we all know, serves just an unbelievable role. I mean, they're there to protect our children, but what I've seen is that in the past, recently, that's been used as a weapon in divorces. We all know what happens. The courts know what happens. They know what happens, but they allow it to happen. And when people make false allegations of child abuse in a divorce, you know, that needs to be addressed. When people make statements perjuring themselves, they need to be prosecuted, because when there's a real issue, it's hard to ferret it out, because they're bogged down with all these false allegations. I think the training for our Child Protective Services is woefully inadequate. You know, you have people with 2-year degrees that could be making a decision on where a child lives. You know, I want somebody with a doctorate making that decision, or at least with a lot more training than they currently have. That's a very serious job. I take that very, very seriously. I think that needs to be overhauled.
What about mediation as opposed to entering into litigation, going to court at all?
Well, I mean, mediation makes sense just because you're not having all the fighting in court, and it makes sense financially, not only for the litigants, but also for the town. I mean, we're paying these judges. You know, the judges get paid a lot of money. They get a lot of benefits. So it makes sense for the county to get people to do mediation. You know, that's something we ought to spend money on a campaign. A lot of people are getting divorced. 50% of the people approximately are getting divorced. You know, there should be We do all these campaigns on drug abuse and alcohol abuse and domestic violence, which are all important, but there should be a campaign of, hey, before you go to court and litigate, do mediation. Get the word out that mediation is an option, because besides helping the litigants, it also helps, like I said, it helps the court system. When people get involved in court, it also people end up getting thrown in jail. That costs more money. So it's just a benefit to everybody to do mediation.
I think it certainly is. It's a way to keep the family a little bit together rather than have them be separated the way it currently is being done in court. It gives them an opportunity to share the parenting. Most mediation clients accept the fact that they're not going to be able to get rid of their significant other completely, that they're still going to be the mother or the father of the kids. So you shouldn't be able to do that, and unfortunately in court you can. It's always been my fear that as I help promote a candidate, that they won't forget where they came from. So may I suggest to you that you don't forget where you came from if you ever make it to the office that of your desire.
Right. Like I said, I still have a job. I have a family. I'm not looking to be a career politician, and I feel this is something that I have to do to make the change. I do enjoy meeting all the people. Smithtown in Legislative District 12 that I'm running for, there's approximately 80,000 people in the district. When I'm out in the fairs and knocking on doors, getting to meet people, you have to remember where you came from.
Absolutely, yeah.
You really do, and that's something that's near to my heart, is representing the people in the district, and I feel that's the advantage that I have over some of the other candidates, is that I believe in representing the people. Like I said, I work hard for my business. I'm in the pet supply industry. I work hard to make a living, and it's hard to put my kids through college and pay my taxes. It means a lot to me when somebody raises my taxes.
Sure.
I want to get, I really want to get a lot from. I want to know that money that I'm spending is not being wasted. And I'm going to continue to live in Smithtown. And I have family in Smithtown. It's important to me all around.
Sure, it's not a no-brainer for you. What would you recommend, in our finishing minute or so here, how would you recommend yourself going forward, or to others going forward, I should say? The economy's been rough. Jobs are not as plentiful at this point in time.
Right.
You can't manufacture a job on your own, but some of your ideas will produce income for some people and probably produce jobs for others. Is there anything else that you think might be worthy of recommending that you could do for those people who may be a little downtrodden and not doing so well at this point in time?
Well, again, I think we need to have programs, especially, I'm talking from a Smithtown perspective and my district. We need to have programs, incentives. We have 25 empty stores. That's a great way. Small business is the heart of the economy. We need to get those people going. There needs to be incentives to people to start business. It's hard to get people to move to Long Island. And I believe there should be a campaign, because it's a great place to live. It's a beautiful place.
Sure,
who wouldn't want to live on Long Island? We're near Manhattan, we have the Hamptons, we have Fire Rock. Long Island's a beautiful place to live.
15 miles shore to shore, come on.
It's just too darn expensive.
Yeah.
We need to give incentives to people to move their business to Long Island. There needs to be commercials like they're doing. Governor Cuomo has got a big program to get businesses back into New York State. We need to do that on Long Island. We need to do that in Suffolk County. We need to help create jobs, assist people, and not get in the way. There's just so many roadblocks. We view business as being bad, I feel, in government. I see what people do. I have a friend who owns a sign shop, and she tells me the amount of money that people pay for permits and how hard it is just for a sign. People trying to get liquor licenses, how hard it is, and building permits to redo their stuff. We need to get out of their way.
Exactly.
And make it easy
Thank
for
you
them.
very much. I'm a small businessman, and let me tell you, the constraints are heavy for small business people these days.
We need to say
there's some place you can do it. Well, you've already started that conversation a little while ago.
Correct.
To get the small people in town to help provide incentives for them.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate that, and I hope you win your desired office selection.
Thank you.
Political contingencies, perceptions, and media-driven narratives are rapidly carrying away the social order, the common good, and in fact the common sense of all Americans. What used to be is no longer. What should be changed seems endlessly tied up in knots. Americans are fast becoming victims of the brain salad surgery. We ask you to challenge our solutions, our facts, and our conclusions. We'll continue to tell it like it is. Bring it to FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week.